Hello everyone, it's week 9 in Humanities 103 Mythology. Here is our module for this week. This week's topic is fascinating and extraordinarily relevant for all of you, for all of us. And what we want to talk about this week is this idea of apocalypsism, or the idea that there are many stories that describe the end of the world. Now, it could be the end of humanity, it could be the end of the planet itself, in a way that's kind of springboards off of our topic last week of flood myths, which were designed to explain how the world could be reborn. Well, this is very similar. So the idea that when things happen in the world that seem unusual, unfamiliar, unsettling, that we can't come up with a good explanation or just can't seem to wrap our human brains around it. For some reason, psychologically, we tend to imagine that whatever the scenario is, it will inevitably lead to some sort of destruction or cataclysm or the end of the world as we know it. And so throughout history, really from the first day that we told stories around the campfire, these stories of the end of times have played a really important role in cultures. So what we want to do is we want to look at what other cultures have imagined as this scenario, how the world might end, why the world might end, what might happen after the world ends, and sort of bring it into our present time, and with what we know about our human brains and psychology, really get a good perspective on why this is. Why do we tell these kinds of stories? You have one discussion post this week, which has to do with telling a story about the end of the world. I'll tell you about that in a minute. I included this screenshot of the homepage for this particular article that I posted for you, The Resiliency of Apocalyptic Belief. And the reason I wanted to show you here, you'll see the menu along the left-hand side. This is part of a whole series of articles and videos from PBS Frontline. And this is the one that I want you to read, The Resiliency of Apocalyptic Belief. However, if this is something that is interesting to you, that's caught your attention lately, maybe something that you don't know much about, you're curious when people talk about the book of Revelation, which is in the New Testament of the Christian Bible, when people talk about the Antichrist or some of these ideas, that this would be a good source. It's a good, credible source of information. These are all from different scholars, biblical scholars, or sociologists, or historians. And so anyway, it's just there if this is something that you'd like to know more about. So here's our discussion for this week. So it's a two-parter. You're going to be posting your reading response. Well, it's not really a reading response. It's actually kind of almost a creative writing response by Thursday, and then by Sunday, you'll be responding to 3 other people. So in a nutshell, what I would like you to do is to think about an event that prompted people to get into that apocalyptic mindset. Now, one of your readings has a whole list of those throughout history, but if you want to, you can go online and do some research. But just the same way that I asked you to find a real flood myth, I want you to find a real event or period of time when things were happening that prompted people to imagine that this was end of times. And then I want you to put down the pertinent details: when, where, who, how, etc. And then I want you to use your imagination, and I want you to go back into time and imagine that you are communicating with a person who is living through that event or situation. And this person can be imaginary, It could be a historical person that you read about. But I want you to really picture who this person is and what they might be feeling. And then I'd like you to write them a personal letter. And this letter should include a minimum of these 3 things. So acknowledge what they're going through and how you imagine they might be feeling about it. And then I want you, because obviously you're a visitor from the future and you are privy to the information about how this event actually turned out, I want you to go ahead and tell them. Okay, so we're not too concerned about, altering the timeline of history. So you're going to reassure them that what they're fearing or anticipating does not come to pass. But I want you to tell them how it actually does unfold. And then the third thing I want you to do is to really feel some empathy for this person and suggest some things that they could do in the meantime to assist them either on a practical level in the resolution of this event or situation, how they might keep themselves safe or their families, how they might survive in this situation, or how they might manage this from an emotional or cognitive standpoint. If they're feeling fearful or they're feeling anxious, what do you suggest that they do in order to manage those feelings? All right, so this should be an interesting letter to write. And then, of course, your peer review. So I have not obviously screenshot the entire thing here, which means you have to go into the instructions and read what the prompts are for the peer response.